Mrs. Rajavi, President-elect of the Iranian resistance, visits Spain to gain support for a policy of regime change towards Iran. In her first visit to Spain, Mrs. Mariam Rajavi, President-elect of the Iranian resistance, arrived in Madrid on Monday, December 17th, upon an invitation by members of the Chambers of Deputies and the Senate. On December 18, Mrs. Rajavi provided an assessment of the situation in Iran to the Human Rights Committee of the Chambers of Deputies and the Senate's Foreign Affairs Committee. In her remarks, Mrs. Rajavi pointed out that the regime for its survival relies on absolute repression at home and export of terrorism and fundamentalism abroad. She noted that the mullahs' drive to acquire nuclear weapons serves the same objective. She emphasized that the regime is unable to either reform or abandon its current policies. Any reform by the regime will lead to its downfall. By referring to critical state of economy and social situation combined with escalating internal feuding at the leadership level, Mrs. Rajavi stressed that the mullahs are facing the threat of being overthrown. The most important reason for these crises is popular discontent. Major uprisings in 2009 and 2010 demonstrated the country's capacity and readiness for change, and the mullahs' response was to step up repression and executions. 100 prisoners were hanged in November alone. Many others are on death row. According to official figures, the regime arrests 700,000 people every year. On examining the solutions available vis-à-vis Tehran, Mrs. Rajavi said, "A quick look at the past clarifies that Western governments have tested all options. Critical dialogue, packages of incentives, long-term negotiations, blacklisting the Iranian opposition, ignoring the terrible human rights violation in Iran, and the regime's breaches of international law and terrorism. But these approaches had only emboldened the mullah to continue with their extremism, terrorism, and suppression." She welcomed intensifying the international sanctions against mullah's regime and said, "Despite its economic situation, Spain stopped buying oil from the mullahs. Nevertheless, if the sanctions are not coupled with political solution, they will not be effective." She rejected a foreign military intervention as a response to Iran crisis and emphasized that the solution is the overthrow of the regime by the Iranian people and their resistance. Mrs. Rajavi reiterated that changing Iran is the responsibility of the Iranian people. "We do not expect financial aid, arms, or intervention from any country. But we emphasize that the West must respect the Iranian people's desire for regime change." Mrs. Rajavi also highlighted the plight of the residents of camps Ashraf and Liberty in Iraq and emphasized that the Iranian regime is paranoid of an organized opposition movement. Therefore, it has been trying to destroy it through Iraqi government. It is vital that the UNHCR declares Camp Liberty as a refugee camp and guarantees an international protection for the residents. Members of Spanish Chamber of Deputies and the Senate from various political parties condemned the extensive violation of the most elementary rights of the Iranian people by Tehran and expressed their support for the Iranian resistance and its objectives. In their speeches, they stressed that Iran's nuclear crisis is a serious and immediate concern for the international community, and seeking a solution for the crisis is a priority.